Hi, Shalom.
Good morning. Good morning.
We are live here in Israel and Australia. Not so far away, Rose, but close enough.
That's right. With the internet coming, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
My name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. This is TMS Roundtable Global. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Rose Hoy, and she's going to introduce our guest tonight.
Good morning, everyone from Australia. Aleeza is a dating coach. This is going to be a very interesting conversation. I hope you all enjoy it. And, you know, reflecting on this, often if we've got trauma, we're actually going to seek out another type of traumatic experience in our adult relationships. And Aleeza is one of those people that will guide and talk through issues with prospective, daters. How do you call it? I don't know. Anyway, Aleeza, welcome. And thank you for joining us and creating a lighthearted sort of, how would you say it, perspective on life. Yeah. And
what a serious thing.
A very serious thing. And also, you know, chronic pain and such doesn't go away when you meet the joy of your life, because once that period is over, your chronic pain is going to come back. So that's just my little 2 bobs worth in the whole picture. Welcome, Aleeza. And
thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Tell us a little about yourself and how this came about and the joy of doing it.
Okay, my pleasure. So I work professionally as a dating and relationship coach for singles, and I absolutely adore the work that I do. I have an entire team of coaches, and you might think, well, what does a coach do, and what do you really need, and how does this all even tie into chronic pain and other things? And what we find is that there's a lot of stress and trauma and challenge around the dating and relationship game, let's call it that for lack of a better word, but where we're trying to find a life partner and we're dealing with all of our stuff and all of their stuff and then bringing everything together. And so we often do see chronic pain, other traumas, stress, a lot of stress comes into dating, and we work through the process, beginning, middle, and end, whether somebody's in a relationship currently and they're trying to gain clarity, or whether they are looking for a relationship and they can't find anybody anywhere that makes sense. We work with them through the entire process. And as we like to say, we help them to get over their hurdles and under the chuppah, which is the Jewish wedding canopy.
Love, beautifully said. The dating scene is not that easy, and especially in the 21st century. How do you manage when people come to you and say, I can't find the right person, or when I have found the right person, they end up being the wrong person? How do you manage that?
So it's been particularly rough this last year, especially with COVID. I would say the amount of stress that we've had in the world, I don't even know the number. It's not that it doubled or it tripled or quadrupled. I think the number is astronomical in terms of how challenging it's become and how distant the world has been, and how much the loneliness factor really increased. So on one hand, I could say, wow, this is not a great situation, but there's a certain benefit that came out of this, which is that when you have a lot of people going through the same trauma, right? Not just that I have my trauma, you have your trauma, they have theirs, and it's all different. But when we have a very similar life altering trauma that we all experience together, it actually unifies us. And the loneliness factor that crept in during COVID was so high that there was an extreme motivation for singles to actually meet each other, be very much, I would say, marriage-minded or serious relationship-minded.
I don't want to go through this alone anymore.
Right. I can't. I don't want to be alone. It's not for me. I can't do it by myself. Like, that's it. I don't want to live by myself, or I move back with my family to take care of somebody. I got to get out of that house. I want my own place with my own person. And people are seriously motivated. So anything where people are like worried, like, oh my gosh, it's a horrible time to date. It's COVID still. And No, it's actually fabulous. I think that there's a higher level of consciousness that's happening in the world today. And I think that people are really in touch with that, but we all are in touch with a similar pain. The pain of frustration and loneliness and the difficulty of bringing two people together with all of the shutdowns, right? You're in Australia and the country's still closed, right? With intention.
That's right.
Israel's half open and half closed, sort of. If you have certain things, you could maybe come in or maybe leave. Right. So it's been a real challenge.
Well, one thing is so interesting about relationships, which, draws in Rose and myself and our work, is that we learn about relationships growing up and we watch things and we have our perception. Then we relate to our mother and I relate to our father. And in Rose's work, we talk a lot about attachment and then detachment and losing that attachment. And then we grow up and we're sort of, struggling for attachment. And then we want to meet someone and we want to have a romantic relationship. It gets complicated. How does that, help us break down some of that complication when it comes to someone coming to you wanting to get some tips and insights on finding the right match?
It's a great question. And I want to differentiate something just so that we're clear in terms of coaching versus, let's say, therapy. So from a coaching perspective, I love to understand who somebody was, where they came from, what their story was, what their challenges were, what they've overcome. But what I really want to work on with them is how they understand that, but how they move forward with a partner in their life, right? If there is something that happened that needs to be dug into in a much deeper way, we will have somebody work with a therapist in addition to a coach. But what I do is I focus on making sure I know what happened, that I have an understanding. They know what happened. We're all understanding what's my stuff and what's my partner's stuff. And that way when things arise, because there's always going to be things that arise, we know where the challenge is, right? Oh, you know what? You triggered a fear. That fear in me, that's from like when I was 15, this thing that happened, right? All of a sudden there's a story, but it's really not you, right? I thought it was you, but it's really me. And that's a sensitivity for me. So I have an awareness of that. And therefore, when I come to the relationship, I can say, when that happens with you, you're triggering something in me that bothers me. And I don't want to deal with that with you. Or maybe I don't say anything because I understand that. Or maybe I go through the pain and I say, listen, I want to talk to you about this. Something happened and I just need to share this with a partner in my life. And I want to incorporate you into that. Obviously that's for a more mature relationship, not something that's so basic.
Right. But do you get the kind of thing where people will go be on a date and then they'll be like, I have to go to the bathroom, and they'll call you from the bathroom and say, oh my God. Like,
I'm laughing because I've gotten like the urgent text message. They're like, Aleeza, I can't really stay in here too long. Please answer. Please answer. Please answer. They're like, listen, here's what's happening. And I don't know if I should do this, if I want, but we talked about this, but then they threw a curveball and something else is happening. So I have gotten the frantic, something's going on, but it's not like a first date or a second date. It's usually when there's a more advanced relationship, there's some thing like that. There's going to be like a moment where we're either going to connect or we're going to pivot and we're going to pull away, and they're trying to save the moment. And they're like, I don't know what to do. So I just walked out. Or they ran to the bathroom, so I also ran to the bathroom, and then we're both going to come back to the table together.
He's calling his coach.
Exactly. I've had texts from men, from women. Sometimes they're like, they went to the bathroom, so I'm just texting under the table. And I was like, stop it. If they come back and they see you texting, they're going to be really upset. They're not going to know you're talking to me. They're going to have no idea who you're talking to. And they're going to think that they're boring you and that you had to get on your phone. They're like, no, I'll just tell them I was checking the time. I said, not acceptable. Wear a watch.
This is a third book. This is another book. The in and outs of secret dating, and talk a little bit about your second book, Virtual Dating, how that came out.
So virtual dating came out through the stress and the trauma of COVID. We went from people would do online dating and people would do long distance dating, both of which are different from virtual dating. Online dating means, hey, we met online. And then after we meet online, we meet in person. Right. Long distance means, hey, you live here and I live far away from you, and it's a little hard for us to date. Virtual dating means wherever you live, could be next door, could be in another country, makes no difference. It's virtual. I'm not seeing you in person. I will not see you in person. I do not know when I will see you in person. We're just going to do things absolutely like this by the computer.
Oh my God.
Or by phone. And there's no timeline for when we're going to actually meet together. So virtual dating came about because something new in the world happened and we weren't prepared for it. We didn't have the rule book of what to do and how to do it. And then also how to gently and lovingly transition into an in-person relationship from this virtual relationship, right? I feel like I know you. I never saw you. All of a sudden I stand in front of you and we're standing up and I'm looking at you going, wow, you look like a stranger to me. I mean, I thought I knew you from this. I feel like I know you. You look a little different, not exactly what
That's stressful. Rose, that's got to be stressful. The adrenaline, the serotonin, the dopamine has to be just like sky high. How does someone calm down? Like, do you talk to them about breathing and calming and like?
I think it's the cortisol that might be in action.
Not about that one.
Not the dopamine.
Like, what else do you do regarding coaching and helping people, move into the relationship that they want? Because we are relationship beings, that's for sure.
Right. Right. So one of the things we do to help calm down or to help balance them out, we help them to master their dating mindset, right? So that my emotions and my feelings and what's happening in the moment isn't taking me over, but I have an awareness of what's happening and I can tap into it. And if things are moving too fast, right? If I could feel my pulse is really moving rapidly, then I'm going to either calm my breathing, take a drink, take a walk, whatever I need, something to bring a better rhythm back so that I'm not going to have a panic attack in the moment. Although there are some people that do also have that momentary panic. And then they either usually talk too much and they don't stop and they want to tell you every single story. And then they go to, somebody else goes to interject something and they keep talking and they don't let somebody get a word in edgewise, or they just sit there and they look at you. And they might not say anything. And you might be talking and animated and they might be like very minimal facial body movements. They're literally like a deer in headlights. They freeze and they don't give you much of a physical or an emotional response because they're so internally frozen. Yeah. So sometimes we do role playing and we walk through different scenarios. Other times we've talked about in the past, how do they normally react on a first date, a second date? What happens when a relationship is more advanced? What's their norm? Once we know their baseline, we know how to help them.
Beautiful. Wow. All our children should have a dating coach, shouldn't they, Tova?
Yeah, exactly. Listen, how do we learn? We don't learn about this. This is not something we learn in school. We learn by struggling, by sometimes falling and getting up. We learn by having our heart broken.
I think it's similar to, right, in the age of child rearing and childbirth and all of these things that we went through. First, it was just the experience. You just went through it and that's how you learned. And then all the books came out, you had Dr. Spock and, right, everybody's going to tell you what to do and how to do it. And then we got a little bit more of like the rules of the game and how to play and the understanding of what was happening. But I think the dating relationship field is a little bit underdone. I think a lot of people in the last 50 years or more have hyper-focused on careers. They put lots of energy and effort and drive and focus into their careers. Nobody wants a family before they're going to have a stable income. They're hyper-focused. And so they put all of their time, their effort, and their money into that. And then they're like, oh, and when I'm ready, I'm just going to find my person and it'll just work, right? And we all know it doesn't just work. And finding that person is actually a really challenging process. And having somebody who has experience and has worked with people through this, like this, I always tell people I like eat, breathe, and sleep dating and relationships. And when they're like, oh, you probably don't want to talk about that. That's work. And I'm like, that's the only thing I want to talk about. There's no other topic I'm like, this is it. This is the only topic. Relationships 24/7 is what I'm really
But how do you it's diplomatic how you have to be honest with people. You have to be really honest.
Yes.
And what if they do need a therapist because they're emotionally traumatized by the last 20 dates or the deer in headlights, or,
Right.
How do you do that diplomatically and gently, that people don't get offended or think, because Rose and I know after all the years we've been doing this, that people go to therapy are strong and are courageous and are ready to look at themselves in the mirror. And yet, there's a reputation in the world of like, it's weak. I don't need that. I can do it on my own. So how do you get through that hurdle?
So the way that you just described it, first of all, is beautiful, right? If you were to come to somebody and to say to them, I know you're going through a lot. Often I'll tell them, I'm a coach, I'm not a therapist, right? Here's my area of expertise, but I'm not a therapist, so I don't have a strength in this area. And I think in addition to the work we're doing, right, because we have separate, dating coaching is a separate work from deeper, more therapeutic work. I think you'd really benefit from having somebody work through these things with you now, right, wherever you are in your whole relationship process, because it's going to benefit you long term. But I love the way that you presented it, for somebody being courageous, for somebody who is actually just has such an inner strength, and they're willing to do a lot of personal growth and development. And often we just talk about the fact that, right, this is what we do. This is a different area. Is this something you have worked on, something you want to work on, something you've been thinking of working on? Are you ready to work on it? And some people are like, oh my gosh, absolutely, yes. Who can you recommend? And then other times they say, no, it's not necessarily something that I was thinking about, and I don't have the headspace for it, right? So if they don't have the headspace, I said, listen, then I just need to be real with you. This will continue to come up for you. And at a certain point in time, you're going to have to deal with it when you're ready for it. And it doesn't have to be today. It can be when you're ready for it. And that's okay also. But I bring it to the forefront of their mind so they have a consciousness of it, because living unconsciously and without an awareness of yourself and other and how we interact, it makes it very difficult to go about the world. And when we can speak a little bit more openly, I think that there's a lot of healing and a lot of connection that happens. And that's what we want. We want somebody who can be fully present in a relationship with you and be open, and really build something together.
So what are some of the, like take home insights that our listeners can take when it comes to, look, we're dating older, we're dating after, a marriage that didn't continue. We're all sorts of dating. There's different kinds of dating. There's men dating men, there's women dating women. There's, this is a whole new world. And I just lost my train of thought, but Rose probably knows my train of thought. Where was I getting to, Rose?
No, I can't look inside your head.
Oh no! Well, you were asking about tips, like what's really like a takeaway that somebody can walk away with. So I think when we have an understanding of who we are, we can do great things within relationships, and we don't need to be perfect. We will have trauma from the past. We will have stress. We will have anxiety. We will have fears. All of the things that both of you deal with on a daily basis, those things won't disappear. They'll just either be lighter some days, or they'll be more well managed. But it's not that there's a magic wand and a magic potion and poof, if we just fixed everything in my life, then I could just marry somebody wonderful and I wouldn't have all these issues. Nope. You've got a suitcase. It's probably more than 50 pounds. Your weight allotment for the plane is only 50 pounds or kilograms, whatever everybody goes by, 70 kilograms or 50 pounds. And yours is like 100. And you are schlepping more weight with you. And so my advice would be to unload the baggage that you can. Get rid of the things that are lightweight, that are just not so difficult to deal with. The things that are medium weight, evaluate them, see what you need to do about it, have this understanding and consciousness, and learn to function and live with them. And for the things that are really deep-rooted, I would say definitely go to a professional. Go to somebody who deals with stress management, pain management, all of these things, so that when I put myself in check and I feel good and I feel confident, then I can be healthier in a relationship. And that's why I think it's great to have people who can manage pain and stress and trauma and things that people have really been through that are debilitating for them.
Such a good point.
Actually, there should also be a parenting coach, shouldn't there?
There are now parenting coaches. I've seen them.
Well, you know, and the beauty of this, and I think Rose will agree, and I'll ask her if she wants to agree with me on this, but, you know, we're in a relationship with our body, our relationship with our parents, we're in a relationship with God or a divine being. We're in relationship with our health. And so there's a similar pattern that we tend to see, like you're talking about the baggage.
Yeah.
And so if we know our pattern of what occurs in those relationships, then we get to see them. And then, you know, Rose has taught me a lot about ISTDP, and she'll, you know, it'll be like, and all we have to do is not get rid of it, but just recognize, okay, I have a lot of baggage. Okay, so I'm going to put it aside for this date, you know, but that date might be, I can take something out of my bag because, so I think it's fascinating about, you know, relationships. You know, it's just nothing new under the sun, right, Rose? Nothing's new under the sun.
Well, we're mammals, aren't we? And we're a herd.
Right.
And we need a partner.
Right.
And we need to replicate ourselves. So, you know, what Aleeza does is at least gives people a starting point of healthy, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the notes I wrote down was living consciously. And that's what Aleeza is actually pointing out, as far as I can see, that it's important to live consciously, to stay focused on what you can handle and put aside what you can't. How do people actually find you? What makes them start to live consciously, to think, I need support in this area? What brings a young person to be conscious of this?
Usually some amount of perhaps pain, whether it's emotional pain, stress, anxiety, somebody being unsure, somebody being frustrated with the process. It's when things are at a point where they just don't know what to do with it anymore, that they want to get support and they're willing to do whatever they need to make that happen. The other time is usually when they say, you know what? I've seen too many people do it wrong, and I don't want to do it wrong. And I just want to get it right from the start. And I'd rather save time and effort and money. So I'm going to start with you. There's nothing wrong. I don't even know what's right or wrong. But if you just put me on the right foot and in the right path, in the right direction, then this could work so much easier. So there are some people who start off with that mindset.
Right. Yeah, well, that's an amazing mindset. Do you think that that's because people, you know, you're saying about careers being first. Do you think that that mindset might come up because people have had to follow a career and they don't just finish school, go to university and just find the right person and get married type thing?
Right.
Do you think that insight has come about because of more education and more actually goals, isn't it? It's about setting goals as well, isn't it, I suppose?
Mm-hmm. Right. It's very interesting. I think in the olden days, if we could go back a few years, I think what we saw was people getting married very young before they were fully formed, and they didn't have an expectation of somebody being formed and ready for them. They were just finding somebody that they had enough in common with, that they had enough of a connection with, or that it was just a match, right? Sometimes in many cultures, there was just a setup, there was a match, that was it.
There was no negotiation. It was yes.
That's it. Right. You're just going to build a life because I said you're going to build a life, and this is the person that we decided is the right person for you. And that's it. And so that often happened as well. And what we see now is that people are fully formed. You're coming with a human being that's on one hand fully formed and completely unformed, because the only way to be fully formed is to be together with the two of you.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
It takes a little bit more effort when you've worked so hard to live alone for so long and build a solo life. I often tell people, you know, another tip or piece of advice, Try not to live alone. Have roommates, live with family members or friends, build a connection with somebody else so that life's a little bit, there's an amount of stress in your life so that when you bring a partner in, that it's not so difficult, that it's not so challenging because you're used to it, because that's just a part of your normal routine.
Right. Right. I'm going to answer, there's a few questions and I'd like to have you role play with our listeners, but I do want to chat for a minute about, what is just your understanding being worldly now that you've crossed the continent to live in a different, in a different galaxy, living here, coming from Philadelphia, now living in Israel. What is your gut feeling as a woman and as a wife? Like, why is divorce happening so much? And what can we do as healers, as health professionals, as coaches? What can we do in our way to maybe help the family unit, or, to chat for a second about because do you work with divorcees, first of all, also? Yeah. So
absolutely. Divorcees, widowers. Yes.
Do you think there's a reason, and do you think there's a solution, or we should just accept it and do the best we can?
I'm not into acceptance about it. No, it's a good question. I think that it happens. I think sometimes there's very good reasons that it happens. I think that it became a cultural norm worldwide, that it was much more accepted, right? For many years, it wasn't accepted. And it was a challenge because you couldn't get out if you were in an unhealthy or a bad relationship. So that obviously wasn't something that was good. We needed people to have the freedom to get out of something if they needed to for a reason. But I think that we're not always taught the skills that we need, and we don't always know ourselves and our partners well enough to know how to fix something. And I've worked with a bunch of divorcees who said to me, I wish I had known what I know now after working with you. I think I might not have left my partner. Or I think I might have tried harder when they tried to leave me. I didn't get everything, right? I thought it could be better with somebody else. I thought I didn't know what to do with this one, so I'd figure it out with another one. I thought it would be easier to date somebody else. So I'll just get out. We'll start over. It's norm. Everybody does it. It's fine. If you have 50% of the population, could you imagine? These are horrible, horrible odds, right? You go to get married, 50% of you are getting divorced. Who wants to get married? I don't have such a good shot. 50, is it going to work? 50-50, place your bets. Let's flip a coin. Good for you. Not for you, right? It's not such a good thing. And we're in a compromised position. And I would say knowing ourselves more, having more patience, working through it. I even had a woman, she did in the end up getting divorced, but through our work together, because she came to me and she said, I'm not exactly single, but I am I'm kind of out, but it's not official, but we're separated. So I want to start dating. And I said, listen, I really want you to work on this before you go anywhere else. And she did work on her relationship. And in the end, she said, I really appreciate that you told me that. She said, I did end up getting divorced, but I had 100% clarity. And I worked really hard to try to save it, but it wasn't doable. And I feel good because now that I'm out, I'm clear. I don't feel like I got out too fast, or I didn't try, or I just rushed to end it. I really made an effort.
Wow.
Yeah.
When we were doing our, go ahead, Rose.
No, we've got some interesting questions on the right-hand side.
Ariel is just making a comment that colleges in the USA are mostly females. So is that a good comment or not a good comment, or
how is that relevant?
Tell us how we can help you with that comment.
Yeah.
And Kate, I know Kate lives in Israel. Hi, Kate. Welcome to the show. So good to see you. Why do you think some people, this is for you, Aleeza, why do you think some people manifest or are blessed with partners and others journey through life alone? How much do you think is related to karma or mazel, which is luck in Hebrew? How much is related to the inner work each person has done?
Okay, so I think that we each have a different purpose within this world, and that we can each accomplish it through different means. For some of us, we accomplish it personally. We can do so much more on our own. People are single for so many years, and then they end up, you know, with a partner later in life. For other people, they get married very young, and we don't really have the understanding of why this is, but, you know, I like to say that it's divine will. Hang on one.
5 children in the house of the Ben Shaloms. 2 are home from college and 3 are okay. And she's back.
Two home from high school and the one computer
high school.
Oh, high school.
Okay.
Area.
Go ahead.
But there is a very deep Jewish concept that we're born into this world with a soulmate. We have somebody who is a life partner for us. They're here, and we have to play. I like to say we play this game of where's Waldo. We try to find them, and we try to connect with them. But how much is related to karma, mazel? I mean, I think there is this inner work that we each have to do, and my work is different from your work, is different from everybody else's work in the world, and we each can accomplish it and do it in a very different way. So some people do it better with a partner. I believe when we have a partner, we can see our own reflection more clearly. Yeah, they're mirrored. It's not so easy when you have to look yourself in the mirror every day so closely and really work on yourself and fix yourself. But I think that there's also periods of time that we go through life with and without a partner, right? We're born into this world. Well, we're not with our partner until we get married. Well, we get married. Well, not all of our partners stay with us, and not all of our partners live full lives, nor do we. So everybody goes through these stages of being in and out of relationships, and those things guide us in our life, and it's all a part of our journey and what we need to be whole.
Rose, I'd like you to answer maybe this next question from Kate.
Oh, okay.
How much related to the traumas we've experienced?
It's all related to the traumas we've experienced, isn't it?
Good.
And our attachment style.
You know,
like sometimes when we get close to someone, we become fearful and we back off. And yet we're really attracted to them, and yet some fear comes up, so we back off. And as Aleeza said, that we drop out of the relationship, and then we go to another relationship, and the same thing happens, and we drop off. So there's a whole undercurrent, and it's all connected to our original relationship and how securely attached we were, or whether or not we were insecurely attached. We're going to replicate it until we have the insight to know that this is our pattern, that as soon as we get emotionally close to someone, fear is going to come up, and cortisol rather than love hormones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
hormones.
As soon as we know that, we then become much, much more aware, and we can face our fear and face the fact that it's not about the person, it's about what's going on inside me, and that I'm going to be hurt if I allow myself to be really open with a life partner. Yeah.
That's why what you do, Aleeza, I mean, excellent explanation, Rose. It's why you do something is so related to what Rose and I do, especially Rose's work, which is quite amazing. And then the TMS work, because when it comes down to chronic pain or autoimmune disease, it's about the relationship with your body and your health. So it's usually a pattern of how you were brought up or how you were attached or detached from, your parent, your father, your mother. And so whether you're a therapist or not, Aleeza, it's like it's in that person. And once they realize it, it's like freedom. They can understand. And what we were talking about in our intro was that they have to accept it. And this is probably an issue, is people not accepting themselves. They come to you, can you change me? Can you change me so I can find a husband? As opposed to, wait a minute, you're fine the way you are. But you have to love yourself. Remember what you said in the intro, you have to love yourself, because how are you going to get someone to love you if you can't love yourself? Chat about that for a minute, about people come to you and they don't like themselves. They're angry at themselves, but they want to change something.
Right. So changing yourself happens, but usually slowly over time. And I think loving yourself also happens. And I also think slowly over the course of time. And I think there's certain aspects that we appreciate or value or love about ourselves. And I think there's other things that we really deeply struggle with about ourselves. And so it's not, you know, sometimes we just like, I just want to do this, right? If I do this and I get to this level, or if I've overcome this thing, then things are going to be better. And then things are constantly changing on us. And you're like, oh, I worked so hard and I finished this, but I've got, wow, so much more work ahead of me. And so
the pattern's the same, right, Rose? The pattern's the same.
Yeah. I was just wondering about happiness. Talk about that if you can, because
yeah.
I think it's an important, we're not always going to be happy. And, you know, sometimes we're going to be sad and sometimes we're going to be angry. And I thought, you know, when you've got a relationship, you've got this aspiration that's going to be happy all the time, but it's not. How do you help people deal with that?
So I'll tell you a quick, cute story. When I first got married, somebody gave us this marriage book. And it was this big, fat, almost Bible of marriage, if you will. And I looked at it and I started reading some things, and there was one horrible story after the other. And I'm like in major shock. I'm just looking at this going, who gives out books like this? Why would you even put thoughts like this into people's head? I don't even understand how this could even exist. And I was so nauseated by it. I stuck it on the shelf. Wouldn't you know, a second person gave us the identical book. Now I'm like, there's smoke coming out of my ears. I am fuming, right? 3 months into marriage, I'm like, page 57, what does it say? How do I deal with this? And I'm cracking the book open and I'm leaving it on the table near my husband, like as if I was just finished reading that page, but it's like, you know, there in case he also wants to read it so it could help solve whatever challenge we were going through. So I think having a realistic expectation of a relationship and knowing what is a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship sometimes means I'm going to feel happy. Sometimes it means that I am going to like my partner. Sometimes I'm going to feel more deeply in love with my partner. Sometimes I'm going to wake up and I am not going to want to look at them, and we're not going to be having, we just can't talk. We're just not on the same page, and we're not going to get through it today. You know, some people say, never go to bed angry. Well, what are you going to do? Fight it out until you fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and then you're going to fix it? Well, what if you can't fix it? No, go to bed angry, wake up and solve it tomorrow, or tomorrow's tomorrow. I don't care what tomorrow you solve it, but just don't walk out and slam the door. Know that sometimes people need a longer time to process, right? I want to talk about it today. You want to talk about it in 3 days, or you want to talk about it never. Right? How do we handle these things? So understanding that we each have different needs in a relationship, and we have to just figure each other out. But the one thing that we need to know is, I'm not walking out on you. You're not walking out on me. Whatever it is, we're just going to get through this. And overall happiness, we need to bring joy to our relationships. We need to laugh. We need to just be in a state of joy, because if we're not, we're just going to live in a state of misery. And nobody's going to stick around for a relationship like that. I want to live miserable. I could go live on my own. Loneliness, don't worry. I could pain. I could take, great. I don't need you for that, right? For you, I want joy. I want more sweetness. I have to bring it to the table, and you have to bring it to the table.
Yeah. What a lovely, lovely dating concept. You know, going on a date is not about whether this person suits you or not. It's about bringing joy to that mix, to that relationship. And, you know, I was reflecting as you're speaking that we don't need that just for our partner. We need that sense of joy in our lives internally, so that we can actually radiate it out in our work environment, in our friendship environment, that radiance. And how do I say it? Yeah, it brings peace, I suppose, doesn't it? That would be the best way of describing it. And as you say, if you're angry and you're upset, well, you're angry and upset. And it doesn't mean that...
Right, it doesn't mean it's over. Sorry to interrupt, but there's also a saying in Judaism that says, Gam ze yavor. This too shall pass. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going through something. we're going to get over it. When? I don't know. How? I don't know. But we're going to get over it. We're going to get through it. Sometimes we can't solve things in the heat of the moment, but we will get through it, and we'll get back to that state of joy. And it comes and goes. Like I always tell people, right? You want a relationship that goes like this, and also that goes up, right? Slowly up over the course of time. You're still going to have downs, but they should be a little higher than the last time, right? We should pull ourselves out of it. But we don't want spikes, right? We don't want spiking high as well.
It's like chronic pain or autoimmune disease. It's like you just, look, we have fears, we have anger, we have frustration, we have shocks, we have changes. But it's like, if you can trust the human body, you can trust the human mind, you can trust that the mind and body are intimately connected. You can trust yourself. Like it's even like, you know, your partner, of course you can trust, but he's got his thing, you know, she's got his thing. If you can trust yourself to be grounded and rooted and to like what we say, you can respond to some new pain, or you can respond to he said something wrong, or you can respond to that she ignored you and not react, then you've got what to work with.
And it's hard. It's really hard because in the heat of the moment, when you have two people that are deeply passionate, first of all, about each other and about whatever the issue is, it sometimes doesn't come together and mix so nicely. And so I think that we're always doing a little bit of a dance and trying not to step on our partner's toe and to just get into that groove where we can have healthy fights and positive disagreements and time apart that's okay, right? I don't have to be perfect with you every second of the day. We're going to figure this out. We got a whole lifetime, sweetheart. Tomorrow it'll be better. Oh, it's not? Okay. Maybe on Tuesday.
True. Yeah. Tomorrow's another day, isn't it? Like another day to repair.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Here's another question. I didn't want to miss this one. They're good questions, Kate. Some of us have spent years working on ourselves, done far more work than some people in relationships, and we're still single. Would love to hear your insights.
Right. So it's not always, you know, with the effort comes the reward, meaning, right, we get ourselves into a perfect situation and now that person comes into our life. I think that we never really know when that person's going to come. I know that when I was dating and I was looking for a partner and I was thinking to myself, how's this really going to work? Right? Like, really, there's going to be somebody in the world that when you look into the world, you're going to look at them, you're going to go, oh yeah, Aleeza, oh yeah, that matches for you. That's really good. That just makes sense. I think when you look around the world, you really see most people that don't make sense. I always tell people, right, if we had 100 prospects for you, how many prospects do I actually think are going to be appropriate for you, right? So out of 100, 90, they're going to be pretty wrong. Right? They're going to go from like really wrong to like, not my flavor, not for me, right? Out of 100. That leaves us with 10. Out of 10, 8 of them, you're going to be like, I mean, maybe. Is that the best that we can do? Right? And maybe 2 you're going to be excited about, right? And everybody wants to marry one of those 2, but it doesn't always happen. And finding the right fit and the right person and the right time in my life and whether I'm single, never married, or divorced, or with kids or without kids, or widowed, or whatever the situation is, to line up every detail of my life with every detail of your life and to come up with an equation that actually works is absolutely miraculous. It's nothing short of a modern day miracle. And for some people, it takes a long time. And I've seen some people that have searched for years that haven't found the right fit. And sometimes they find them, but it's just a much later in life process. And I've also seen, just to give to bring up another tip or another idea, I love something that I call mystery in your history. So if you're out there looking in the world and you don't see anybody in front of you, I want you to turn around and I want you to look behind. I want you to look in your past. Who have you known? Not just who have you dated. Who was your next door neighbor when you were 5? And who did you used to live nearby? And who were your parents friendly with? And where is there another human being in this world that you might match with that might already be in your circle, in your extended circle, or your history of your circles? And perhaps look backwards, because sometimes forwards isn't the direction that we need to go.
Right.
Well said. Tell me, with COVID and being locked down, and as you know, we're still locked down here. Well, not quite. We're allowed out now, but we're not allowed interstate or anything.
Yeah, we're not on public TV, but you did sneak out this week. But anyway.
I did. What's happened, you know, you had said before earlier on about internet dating and such, but in actual fact, as Kate was saying before, you know, there will be more people who are single at the moment because of this. And how do they cope when you can only see them online, or, you know? How do they cope? How do they stay, sure of themselves? As Kate says, you know, like, you know, she's done a lot of work, and I gather she's single still. And you know, how do they manage without actually being able to go out physically and see people physically?
That's been the hardest thing, I think, for every single one of us in every country, but probably the hardest on singles. For people that are living alone, or even if they're living with, you know, family, but they're not living, you know, the way that they previously were or the way that they wanted to live. They don't have all of the social interactions. It's been difficult. Most people have been coping by coming up with hobbies or interests or things they can do at home. This happiness factor that we're talking about in a relationship, the first thing that we have to do is work on that happiness factor with ourselves. That I can walk around by myself, with myself. I can have a smile on my face, even if it's only through my own living room with my pajama COVID bottoms on, right? And only being dressed from here up, right? But I can feel good. I can enjoy my own company. I can build that relationship with myself. But I don't want to sugarcoat this and say like, oh, well, it's just so easy. This is an extremely difficult process. And I think that COVID for many people was extremely and is extremely isolating.
Isolating.
Yeah, building healthy friend and personal networks, I think, is a safeguard. And I would think of it like little circles of people that are there to support me, right? Professionally, hobbies and interests, friends, family, right? We need each one of these networks, and we need to plug in and tap into them on a daily basis and on a weekly basis. We have to draw ourselves out of our own shell, and we have to work really hard to want to connect with the world, because the rest of the world has been shut off from us. Like it was like, you know, the power went out and that's it. And the rules are power's out, and until it gets turned back on, right? Until the world lights back up and everything not goes back, but goes forward to a new normal.
Here's the trade-off maybe. You know, I never would have believed that, you know, on a Zoom or, you know, an internet call or even a WhatsApp audio or video call, you know, there is some social intimacy that you can learn, you can practice. I mean, you are alone in a room and you are talking to someone, and, you know, I think it's something that we can find some gift in, because you are really like getting practice being intimate.
And you're also exposed to yourself in a way that you're never able to before. Now,
very true.
Yeah, and on that level of being exposed to yourself, how do you manage with people who have a relationship and as soon as the relationship ends, they want to replace it? Can you talk a little bit about that and the urgency of replacing this figure that never suits?
Serial monogamist, the person that can't live alone, can't be alone, can't function without having somebody there.
Yes,
It happens. There's many people it happens to, obviously, of all different ages and stages. But I think often we see that it happens with men, where if they had a relationship, they were in it, they just want to be in another relationship. They just, right? Like I can't function without that stability of having that routine and everything that I was used to. There are healthy ways of being in relationships, and I've seen people who go from relationship to relationship. They take time, they mourn, but not very much time, you know, anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, but definitely not a few months, and they move on. But there have been healthy relationships born out of that. It really depends on the person. If you're not in a healthy place and you don't want to be alone, and I'm going into this relationship to replace time with myself, then it's not okay. If it's because I want to grow as a person and I can do that best when I'm in a relationship, then it is an okay thing. And often you'll see people are a little bit more flexible. If they're jumping into relationships, they're just a little bit more open to experiencing things. And they're like, well, I don't know what's going to work for me. So I'll try this, I'll try that, right? I'll just keep jumping to figure it out. And for some people, that's part of their self-discovery. It's not my favorite method, but for some people, that's how they choose to go about it.
Yeah. And look, you know, it never occurred to me when we started speaking, but part of breaking or losing a relationship is about giving yourself a time for mourning. How do you talk about that with people, that it's okay to mourn the fact that it didn't work?
Point.
Some people really struggle with that. Just, again, depending on their history, some people want to numb the pain and they just want to jump into something. Some people want to mourn the pain. They want to feel it. They want to talk about every single detail. They want to rehash it. They want to figure out how I could have made it better and what if it could have worked and maybe I did something wrong. And there's other people who want to intellectually approach it and say, well, like, I wonder what I could have done differently, or if was I in the wrong, and going forward, how am I going to use this pain? And I think that everybody uses pain in different ways, right? For some people, it's a healing process, and for other people, it sinks them very low. So if we use pain to transform ourselves and to move ourselves forward in a direction that's healthy, then it's okay that we experience this pain and we move through it. And for some people, they know that if they sit in that pain for too long, they're going to sink so low they won't be able to pull themselves back out. And so they do this as a mechanism of saving themselves from falling so low, and they don't dig into it too much, whether it's not with a therapist or they just jump into another relationship. They have coping mechanisms that are in place to really save them from something that could be very traumatizing to them.
Yeah. And that brings me to the a common word of rebound.
Mm-hmm. That was, yeah.
Rebounds. Rebounds are very interesting. You often find people it's just like, it's a pick-me-up. Sometimes it's just a quick fix. Sometimes it's I needed to distract myself. I needed to get over this. And when you use the word rebound, it for sure has a negative connotation, right? Nobody ever thinks like, oh, you're my rebound, and that was so wonderful. We're all thinking you're my rebound and I'm going to break up with you, right? So I don't want to be a rebound. Date that one and then go out with me. I want to be the real thing. I don't want to be the rebound. So we do have to be careful of rebounds and getting into sticky situations. And if you're going to have a rebound, just make it short, right? Like don't be in a rebound relationship for 6 months and then be like, oh, finally, I'm going to get over it. Do it in 6 dates. Be done with it. Move on. Get it out of your system.
I wanted to say something in response, if Kate's still listening. You know, this is where if you know yourself and you understand yourself and you know your patterns and you're aware and you're less critical and not judgmental and you can accept, you know, then you understand that like dating is a mirror. I mean, each date is like I'm practicing dating. I can't just talk to my dating coach and read the book. I've got to practice. I can't just watch movies and plan it out. I've got to be in the game. And so, you know, my advice to Kate or any of the people that she's asking questions about is that dating is, and each time you do it, you get better at it. You get more comfortable because you know yourself, you know that this triggers you or that pushes your button. So it's really, you know, and you might say, well, it takes years to know myself. No wonder, you know, I'm older. But, you know, and then there's the risk factor, which is another whole show. The risk factor of when do I make the decision? When do I make the commitment? Am I scared of commitment because I grew up and there wasn't commitment in my family?
There's a lot of what I like to call affectionately, I don't know, right? I get into a relationship. Do I want to move ahead? I don't know. Could I see myself being with this person long-term? I don't know. Is this the right one? I mean, maybe, I don't know. And they get into this cycle of not having the confidence or even the tools to know how to make a great decision that they're going to be satisfied with for a lifetime. And that's definitely one of the things that I'm deeply passionate about in terms of training people to have the skills to make a good decision that they're really going to be feeling good with today and tomorrow, and even when they're fighting, and even in 2 years from now.
And even if they make a mistake, that they can accept that.
Right.
Yeah. So here's Kate's question. Oh, go ahead, Rose.
Well, I'm a bit, where Kate has said here, actually I thrive for long periods, but that actually seems to be a negative. But why would that be a negative? A negative ability now. Something, oops.
This is Kate's.
Not normal. But it is normal. Some people remain single all their lives, don't they? So, right. I mean, as long as they can live within themselves.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, when we're looking for a partner, we're actually looking for something to make someone that actually makes us more whole. And I think we've probably got the ability to be whole within ourselves if we realize it.
You know, there's nothing wrong with you know, like a family who don't want to have children if they're sure. With a single person, I mean, it just are they happy with their decision? Yeah. No,
so being and finding peace as a single person seems to have backfired. That's why I can't quite. Because,
okay, so I think what she's saying, or how I interpret what she's saying, is that if I make peace with being single, I'm no longer motivated to go find my partner. Somebody comes into my life, I'm like, no, I'm good. No, you're nice. That's nice. But I'm good on my own. You would have to knock my socks off. You would have to be an 11 out of 10 in order for me to be wowed and to be really interested in bringing somebody into my life, because I'm good, right? Things in my life work well. I'm at peace. There's a lot of things that are just easy. They just make sense. It's not a really difficult process. If I'm going to bring somebody in, you've got to really be worth it, right? So when I make peace with being single and I give up the desire to find somebody, I no longer have a space inside. I'm completely whole. When I'm feeling completely whole, right? It doesn't work. We have to open up. We have to pull back a little space within us so that there's a little bit of a void, a little bit of an emptiness. Not that's void for the sake of being void or empty, but so that somebody has a place to rest within us, to be within us, to be inside of our heart, and for us to be able to give a piece of ourselves. Not that I'm just so complete on my own, I don't need anybody else, but that with us together, we can be even more complete. We can really bring something unique to our relationship and to the world.
Yes. So Kate's responding, not exactly. I accepted where I was, found peace with who I was, and thus survived. I didn't give up the desire to be single. So I think that, you know, what would you say to that?
I think that sounds healthy to me. Yeah. It sounds like there was a desire to be with somebody, but I also made peace with my situation, which is, well, I'm not with somebody today, right? Maybe it'll be tomorrow, but it's not for today. And I think that is a beautiful balance, because really we can't, there's certain things that we can't change, right? You can't make somebody materialize and be in front of you tomorrow. Poof. If I was in the dating pool, I wouldn't suddenly just, you know, magically have it happen tomorrow. It's a process. And when we can feel at peace within ourselves, then when you go about the search, you bring a really peaceful, beautiful energy to the potential relationship that you're searching for. So I like that perspective.
Right. Ariel has an interesting comment. And I just want to make a comment. I just want to just say that it's actually, you know, very courageous when men come to dating coaches. I'm just saying, like, for a man to come to a dating coach or a therapist about dating, it's like saying, hey, you know, like, it doesn't come easy to me because I'm a guy, you know, I'm having the same relationship issues. So Ariel says, and it's a very good point, Hallmark and Disney movies a lot of the time show the wrong ideas of how relationships should work. You're absolutely right, 1,000%, Ariel.
I actually took a course in college on children's literature, and we focused and did a portion of it on all of these Disney stories and these fairy tales and these things that are so dramatic and such beautiful stories and really engaging for the imagination, but I also 100% agree. They put the wrong images in our head. It's not a realistic view. It's not a smart view. It's not a right view or a way to look for a relationship. And we are, let's say for women, right? You're looking for somebody to sweep you off your feet, literally. Like it's happening in every fairy tale and every story. And then every man thinks, well, I have to come in and sweep her off her feet. I don't know if I have enough energy for all this. Like I just wanted to take her out for dinner. You know, the expectations are just not normal, right? Like, and then you go on
for the guy. And then there's like roles.
Yeah. There's like Prince Charming and Queen whatever, you know, Sleeping Beauty or whatever.
Yeah. So that's so interesting because that's a biggie. See, there's our family, there's attachment, and then there's society, and then there's media. There's a lot of forces, not against us, just out there for us to make us players on our stage. And what are we going to do with this? And this may be something, Kate, like, you know, Kate, you're probably very experienced in relationships. I know you're also in the healing business, so I'm sure that, you know, it's not been easy. But this is what she meant. I didn't give up the idea of relationship, but I think you all realize, like, great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Kate's in Israel, so Aleeza's in Israel if you want any dating coaching.
We can connect virtually, but in person too.
Hey, Tova, should we sign up? Should we?
Oh no, Rose and I are single. We are single, and no, this is not a show to talk about why we're single. But anyway, you know, it's like the experience, each relationship. This is what I'd like to add to the beautiful trilogy here, is that each relationship is an enormous experience, and I think a growth step. It could be a date that was not comfortable, but what did you learn from it? And I think all relationships are opportunities to learn. And yes, there's a whole other story about like a romantic relationship and why we feel one way around men and women. But I'm not going to sign up right now, Rose. Okay, is that okay with you?
Okay. Well, I'm not going in alone, so if you're not going, I'm not going either.
Any more questions out there? Because we're going to wrap up. We have some listeners, and I think it's so related. And again, we talked about how stress and anxiety about relationships, if we don't look at it in the face and embrace it, it can turn into chronic pain. And a lot of people that come to Rose and I, they are struggling in relationships, and it changes when they look at themselves. So it's really beautiful work that you're doing, Aleeza, and I'm just in awe of watching you grow. I remember years ago when you, like, this was your calling, and that's another whole story. Tell us briefly, I want to hear, like, what happened in an elevator pitch. What happened when you decided to be a dating coach? Because it was not your, you know.
I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just knew I wanted to get married. I wanted to have family. And that was my life's dream and my life's goal. And there was nothing more important than that to me. And then about 7 or so years after I got married, or maybe even 5 to 7 years afterwards, I had this aha moment of, oh, I want to help other people do this. Right. And what do you do if you want to do that? So I started to do matchmaking. And then I was like, well, you can't just like stick people together. You got to talk to them. You got to work through the process with them. So I would call them and I would schmooze. The kids are playing or they're napping or I'm doing carpool and, oh, what's doing and what's going on? And okay, 30 seconds till a kid gets in the car. What's the story? You know? And we worked really hard to work through things. So I very naturally fell into doing this casually as just my passion project. And then one day we had enough kids and enough bills, and my husband said, okay, great, time to get a job. And I was like, no, I mean, I have one. I don't know if I get paid, but I have a job. I'm like a matchmaker. I'm a coach. I'm a something. He said, be anything you want to be. Just help me pay the bills. So I took what I was doing as a passion project and I turned it into a business because there was nothing more important in the world than to help people to find a healthy relationship, to start by being in a healthy relationship with themselves, and to still also have the hope and the motivation and the inspiration and the education and all of the support that they needed in order to get through the process, because it can be a really grueling process. And as Kate has shared, it sometimes goes on for many years. We don't know, right? There's one thing that I believe that we all have a soulmate. We all have a right person, or more than one right person. There's not only one person in the world. That's another story. But that we all have an amount of people, short list, like maybe about 7, no more than 8, that could potentially be really right for us in this lifetime. And it's our job to go out there and find them. And for some people, it's a quick process. And for some people, it's a longer process or a very difficult process. And I just want to be a part of that process and to help people as much as possible.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for being our guest. It's really lovely. And also for our viewers to actually be aware that when we go into a relationship, all our old baggage comes with us, and we can't leave it behind until we become aware that we're carrying that baggage. And as Aleeza said in the beginning, we need to know what baggage we need to take with us. You know, if we're going on a long trip, which is a relationship, well, we probably don't need to take a lot of baggage. We need to sort of get new baggage, put it that way, within the relationship.
But we have to love our baggage. We have to love our baggage, accept our baggage.
Sometimes we just schlep it along. We don't exactly know what to do with it, but loving it and accepting it, I think, also sounds good. And I think we have to know the right people to go to. And I think for some of the deeper work, I would refer people to you and to say, deal with the stress and deal with the trauma and deal with the heavy baggage, because that's really left to the professionals that know how to do that. And then the other things are left for my type of work, which would be different.
Yeah. Aleeza, also, I realized as you were speaking that we don't necessarily know we've got baggage, do we? We think we're coming free and lighthearted and available and wanting to have a good time and be there for another person, but we're unaware of what we've got, the sack we've got on our back. So
our partner mirrors our baggage.
Yeah.
I think our awareness of it changes. I think when we're younger and more idealistic, we are a little bit more starry-eyed and less aware of the baggage. And then somewhere in the late 20s, somewhere in the 30s, people have an awareness. For sure, by the 40s, 50s plus, we know we have baggage. We just don't want to face it, and we don't want to schlep it. We just want to like put it down and leave it there. But we can't always do that.
That's right. And sometimes we love our baggage as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's been great.
So,
Thank
good
you
night,
so much.
you
I
two
put your
ladies.
information out there for anyone who wants it. So we're happy to be here each week on a Monday night, sometimes at 3 o'clock USA time, sometimes at 9 o'clock. We'll let you know the times. Rose, I love co-hosting with you. Aleeza, it's been great to have you join us. So we'll say goodbye and God bless. See you all next week.
Bye.